Hi there, I'm Joe Dudek, president and founder of Keyhole Marketing.
And I'm Shannon Jarek. I work for Keyhole as the assistant brand manager.
And this is Metaphorically Speaking, a podcast that explores the mysterious side of marketing. Metaphorically Speaking, the very first one of 2020.
Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah,
we made it to 2020. I thought maybe we'd have like a Y2K, but for 2020.
You thought everything would shut down. What were you, like 3 when Y2K happened? How old were you at that point?
I was 3. You're right. Yeah. Wow.
Wow, that was seriously.
But I have vivid memories of, my parents stressing for the apocalypse. So
Were they hunkering down?
No, they didn't care at all.
Oh.
Yeah, we were all going to get wiped out, and they were like, it's fine.
Nice.
So, yeah. But 2020, anyway.
I'm glad we made it to this decade. Yeah.
Me too.
We got a new episode to start off the year. We've interviewed Casey Ross at Axe and the Oak Whiskey. Great conversation. I love just getting to know this guy. Met him coincidentally at a whiskey and cigar night, fireside night. Yeah. So,
that about sums him up right there.
Yeah, basically,
whiskey and fireside chats.
I don't think he talks unless there's whiskey in the vicinity, I think so.
And you did have some in your vicinity during this conversation,
didn't you? Gracious to bring it to you. Again, nothing would have happened. We would have stared at each other for 45 minutes. It would have been awkward. So we appreciated him bringing that. Good conversation. That's our tagline, right? It's sharing stories one drink at a time.
Yes. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. Exactly. No, what I love about this conversation is, he totally encompasses like the Axe and the Oak brand that he represents. It's passion for good whiskey, like the outdoors, good conversation. And I know that's something that you and I value a ton as well. And so it just seemed like an awesome conversation between you guys.
Yeah, he definitely embodies the brand that he's created. It isn't like this, what he's wanting to get to. It's just very much a continuation of who he is as a person. So
definitely.
It is a good conversation talking about the risks of starting a business, sort of the fears associated with that. I loved his honesty.
Yeah, it was awesome just because we saw him be an example of somebody who took a leap into entrepreneurship, which is super scary. And as we talked about in our last season, we went through fears and we went through these scary stories where people are like, this is what I want to do, but I have this stability or this security that I'm coming from. So is it worth the risk? And, Casey is a perfect example of somebody who kind of answered that call and it's paying off. He loves what he's doing. He's successful. He's made a name and a brand for himself and his team. So it's so cool to see that success story happen. And I loved just how he kind of walked us through his whole career, and what brought him to where he's at today.
Yeah, it's exciting. Looking forward to see where his business goes in 2020. And he shares a little bit about that too, like what's next for the business. So it's exciting to hear as well.
Absolutely. If you're in the area, you have to stop by this year. And I need to get out there myself.
Yeah, we were out there. We did a little holiday trip over there with some friends who were in visiting with us and loved it over there. Loved the vibe at the Whiskey House. And you've definitely got to trek back out of here and we'll make sure we stop in there for sure. So
definitely.
Cool. Hopefully you enjoy the conversation. Grab a bourbon, sit down, listen, enjoy. So you're like a kind of a rare Coloradan, from my perspective, at least. I've only been out here about 6 months, so I haven't met a lot of people who are native to the area, especially Colorado Springs native.
Yeah, the rare breed.
Yeah. You were born and raised here, right?
I was indeed. Yeah. It's been it's home. I love it. Been all over the world, but I don't see myself ever moving anywhere else for sure.
Yeah. What was life like back in the day? Like I said, I've got 6 months under my belt, but what was Colorado Springs back in the day?
It was great. We were fortunate enough to kind of grow up in just a cool little community downtown and then below UCCS in the Cragmore area. And I still have like super, super close friends, really tight relationships from way back in the day. And yeah, it was good. I remember it snowing, the snowstorms being a lot more fierce, but it might be because I was just smaller.
Yeah.
but I just remember getting pummeled when we were little.
Yeah.
It's been pretty mild as of late, last several years, but yeah, it was great.
I had the same thought because I grew up in South Bend, northern part of Indiana. We used to get a ton of lake effect snow off Lake Michigan. In my memory, we used to, like, every time it snowed, it'd be 9 feet, and we'd be out there for no school for 3 weeks. But I was just thinking, like, just recently, if that was just sort of I didn't log away the sunny days when there was no snow, So was it really as snowy as we remember? Or
probably not.
Yeah. We could have the whole global warming conversation if we want. But
sure.
What kind of kid were you growing up? Were you pretty quiet, pretty introverted, precocious? How would you describe yourself?
The Ross Bros, we were ornery and all over the place. And, and my parents were hard workers, and so we would get out of school and go to the park and play basketball until dinner time. So it was basketball, bikes, and out hiking around playing with buddies. So that was it.
Bicycles, bikes, and what'd you say?
Basketball bikes. Yeah.
Basketball, bikes, and breakdancing actually.
Yeah. I don't really talk about that much anymore, but yeah, that was part of it.
I just found out you and I just met recently, and you told me about that, and I just found out it's going to be an Olympic sport in the 2024.
It's crazy.
Like
it's crazy to see how far it's come. And yeah, my family, especially my little brother Rocky's been really heavily involved, and was in a lot of different breakdance crews and won some competitions. Yeah, it's just really neat and where that sport's going. Yeah.
What kind of a family were you in? Was it fairly conservative, pretty liberal? I mean, politically, but also maybe religiously. I mean, how would you?
Christian now. Didn't grow up in a Christian home, but had two just wonderful parents. My parents were awesome. They ended up divorced when I was about 12, but we were kind of in the middle of things.
Yeah,
we weren't very super conservative, super liberal. We were kind of just right smack dab in the middle. And, just hanging and loving on people.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you were the middle child, right?
Middle man.
Yeah. How have you seen that middle spot affect kind of the way you live your life, how you look at things?
It's funny because when I talk to other people that are the middle sibling, sometimes we're like dead on, we're the same person, or we're like, who are you? Like we are on the other realms. Yeah. So it just depends. But it was great. It was great growing up. I have two awesome brothers. They're both here in town. We still get along really, really good. So some siblings can't stand each other, and we thankfully we live less than a mile apart from each of them, and they're wonderful.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
It's cool you guys still stay connected. My family, we're kind of spread all over the U.S., so we do well when we're with each other, but there's not a whole lot of interaction between visits. So that's cool. You like being around each other and stuff.
Love it. Yeah.
What was the age gap between the three of you?
Let's see here. About 2 years on my a year and a half on my little brother, and about 2 years on my big bro.
Yeah. That's awesome. How did the divorce kind of affect, like, what kind of role do you feel like you took on in that kind of birth order for your brothers and for yourself?
Yeah, that one, we kind of all hungered down with mom, and dad kind of went and did his thing.
Yeah.
And we weren't too keen on my dad for a while after all that, for about 4 years. But I can honestly say, like, he is one of the coolest guys I know. And grateful for the restoration of our relationship. But he's Pops, and he's super strong man, super just like even kill.
Yeah.
Nothing gets to him, and love him to death.
Yeah. Mom and dad are both alive?
Both alive.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And they're both local to you?
Yes, sir.
That's cool. That's very cool. What kind of student were you?
Awful. I was the worst student. Besides like probably girls and basketball, hanging with my buddies. I was the worst. I was the worst student. And
always, from not just like the divorce or stuff like that didn't affect it. You were just always sort of.
No, I was always I just wasn't into sitting down. I guess I'm too impatient. I could never get in, grasp a lot of what was going on. Didn't have the capacity or the want at the time. I just wanted to go have fun and do
For sure.
what I wanted to do. And I remember my mom holding all of us back in first grade.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was probably a good thing for the Ross Bros. And like my son, he's 5, and we're starting him late because we need all the time we can get.
For sure.
Like we're not the brightest bunch, that's for sure. But no, it was good. But like I had a 65 Chevy as a freshman in high school.
Oh, wow.
And so I didn't spend much time at school. I was just always, all my friends were older, so
Yeah.
I'd go, it was crazy, just go and do my thing. And then I think at the end of my sophomore year, the counselor sat down and was like, Mr. Ross, I don't think you're going to graduate if you stick to your current plan.
Your current drive off campus plan.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was bad. But so after that, I hunkered down.
It did kick you in the butt a little bit.
It did for sure, and graduated with the best grades I had ever had in my life, literally. And then I went to trade school, automotive school, and that was something that I was passionate about, that I really, really loved, and I did really well. Yeah.
That's awesome. When did you start? I know you went off to Wyoming Tech up in Laramie. When did you sort of get into the trade? Was that in high school? That was when you started getting interested in that?
It was, yeah. My dad can barely replace a battery in a car. My mom, she was a total gearhead.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Had amazing cars.
That's awesome. That's how you got the 65 Chevy through your mom?
Well, it was, we've always been a Chevy family. Okay. And I have 2 uncles. One's a big Mopar guy, one's a big Chevy guy. But I grew up tinkering and taking lawnmowers apart, and it was just something that I had always loved.
Yeah.
Always loved racing. Grew up kind of racing dirt bikes and cars, and so that 65 Chevy was my first love, and that's kind of where I got it was my family, my mom and my uncles. Yeah.
Chevy what? What was it?
It was a 65 Chevy Biscayne I bought it. It was a 2-door post, small block, kind of a grocery getter, a grandma car, and I turned it into a high horse, 600 horse monster.
Oh, gosh.
And did a lot of drag racing in that car.
Interesting. Yeah, my brother, so I have a half brother who's 12 years older than I am, 14 years older than I am, and I remember him and my dad, so it would have been his stepdad, out tinkering with the cars, because we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so they would get a junker and just spend some time fixing it up outside. And by that time I was just 5 or 6 years old, wasn't that interested. And we didn't have a garage, so they were just sort of out on the street, just doing what they could out there. And I just didn't get blessed with those things. And my dad would always try to pull me in and, hey, let's work on the brakes today. And of course I was just like, I need to be out playing with my friends. Wasn't interested. But now I kind of wish I still had some of those skills just to save a few bucks and do some of that stuff,
Yeah. It always helps.
Even though of course nowadays it's harder to tinker on cars than it was back in the day.
For sure. Yeah.
So then what kind of brought you up to Laramie? What was it about that tech school? Were there some friends going up that way, or how did you?
I did have some really close friends going up with me, and so all throughout high school, for 4 years, I was working at a shop here locally called Super Lube, and
during high school and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then graduated from Wasson. A month after that, I packed up the truck and moved up to Laramie, and Wyoming Tech was. It's kind of a automotive school that's really well known. I went to Phoenix a couple times and toured UTI.
Yeah.
But the cool thing I liked about Wyoming Tech was their street rod program.
Oh, okay.
And so I went with the goal of going and working for Boyd Coddington, Chip Foose, the Brizio brothers, or coming back here and opening up a speed shop. And I got engaged and went straight into management. It was really funny, but that's why I went to that school, and I got a lot of knowledge and hired straight out of school and stuff. But I didn't follow my
goal path.
My goal path. Yeah.
Interesting. Is that a 2-year school, 4-year school? What is it?
It was a 2-year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, how did you meet your fiance at the time up there in college?
Yeah. I was trying to get a macho automotive job, but everybody in town was going to that school and already had all those jobs picked off. And so I was the coolest bakery boy at Albertsons you'd ever meet.
Oh,
and,
for sure.
And so where there's a bakery boy,
okay,
there's always a deli girl.
Interesting. It's the old story we all know.
Yeah. So we fell in love and ended up moving back here and blah blah. That's a long story.
Yeah.
But
She's from this way, or how did she was?
She was from Wheatland, Wyoming.
Okay.
And we kind of split, and then I found my current wife. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Ross.
Yeah. So then you came back here after school. What kind of career did you get into? Obviously, you kind of wanted a different path than you wanted to get into after college. Where'd you land after that?
Yeah, I got hired straight out of school by Saturn of Chapel Hills. Then I worked for Phil Long Ford Chapel Hills. Worked for Bob Pincus Volvo Mazda, and then I got into like entertainment and all that stuff, the entertainment industry.
What kind of stuff did you do at just sort of auto body repair?
No, I was a service advisor, service manager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Talk about that transition from that industry into the...
it was a kind of a weird thing. But as we were talking about my little brother being a break dancer, we kind of all danced, and he got a job on Bob the Builder theater show, touring the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And he called me one night. He's like, hey, they need a head carpenter. And I was kind of at the point getting burnt out because I wasn't using my hands. I wasn't working on cars.
Yeah.
I was dealing with people all day and handling the heat. And so I was kind of over it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I flew to Dallas to audition in a room full of agents and actors and portfolios and blah, blah. And I was the little guy in the corner like, why am I here? And I went, I can't act, I can't dance, but I can drive anything.
Yeah.
And part of it was that you had these $1 million animatronic hydraulic electric machines. So I got the part of Rolly the steamroller.
Nice.
And
can see that for sure.
And then they cross-trained me to be the head carp for the tour. And I kind of just, fell in the right camp. My production manager was Jake Berry, and he's the one that got the Stones touring here back in the day. And he's done everything in rock and roll. And so did that tour, and then kind of a career mutt, man. I just I've bounced all over the place from fire to marketing for healthcare campuses to just all these random things.
Yeah.
And many obviously automotive jobs in between. And then I just kept getting calls for the road for theater, and so I did Bob the Builder, then I did Walking with Dinosaurs, and then I did as Batman's production stage manager. And so I toured all over the world with those, and then I got back, and in between tours I would work for a company here locally, based in Belgium, but headquartered in Black Forest, Colorado, called Stageco. And they built the largest black steel rock and roll staging in the world. And so I would weld and fabricate for them in between theater gigs. And then when I finished Batman, they hired me as a project manager. And so I would kind of just work with production teams and get some staging ready for these big tours.
How did you process sort of just jumping from career to career to industry? Did that sit well with you? Did you feel like you were sort of had no path? Were you happy with sort of the change of pace a lot?
Yeah, in high school, working all 4 years at the same shop, same job, I thought I would be that guy that would graduate from automotive school and just be there for the rest of my life, and God kind of really took me on a whirlwind career-wise, and honestly, it's been great. I've met some incredible people through it all. I have amazing friends in every realm, every career path that I took. Sure. I have some solid friends
that's awesome.
in each of them, and so I wouldn't change it for anything. That's for sure. Yeah. So
let's transition into your current role.
Yeah.
What kind of crossroads kind of met to make that happen? I mean, if you go to your website, it's 5 guys sitting together over fire, and you're talking about sort of thing, but transitioning a little bit into this touring the world into distilling. That's a jump. So I'm sure you did some stuff in between there, right?
Yeah. when I was on Batman, one of my closest friends in the world, are some of my partners. So like Jason Jackson and Eric Baldini, and so I'd come home off the road for 2 weeks every 3 months or so, and we'd go to Jason's out in Black Forest, and we hunt. So we cook up a pig or an elk, and we play some washers or some cornhole, and grill up some food, and a lot of it literally like some people, some businesses just say, oh yeah, it started around a fire. This one actually did.
It actually did, yeah.
Yeah, like just having a good time, barbecues with friends out in Black Forest. And so we started making beer, and then we kind of, started making moonshine and then heavy chip.
All just for yourself, not for sale, everything.
Yeah, just tinkering, And then I would go back out on the road for 3 or 4 months and come back, and products that, just started getting better and better and better. And then everyone was like, gosh, this is good. You guys need to do it. Yeah. And I really wanted to start a family and move forward with things here locally.
At that point, you were married?
Yeah. I'd been married for 10 years.
10 years, okay. Yeah. And was she, just to transition a little bit off off that story, had she traveled with you? Was she sort of staying here at home, or was her?
No, she did. She didn't do the first. We met after my first tour. And then a year into our marriage, Jake Berry, the production manager, he was just persistent, and I turned him down 4 times. I tend to turn things down 4 times. I turned the blind date down 4 times for my wife before I met her.
This podcast you turned down 4 times till you found
Totally. And then I was like, he's pretty cool. I turned him down 4 times before I actually took the job. And my wife, Mundy, she's amazing, super hard worker. And she had never worked a day in her life in theater. And when we were doing rehearsals for Walking with Dinosaurs in Tacoma, Washington, and I went to Jake one day, and it's probably about 2 months in, and I'm like, Jake, I'm not gonna last long. I've been married for a year. Yeah. And I just want to let you know that I'll probably get you through rehearsals and stuff, but if I can't get my wife out here to tour with me, I'm going home. Yeah, for sure. And I could just tell, Mundy was lonely. She was just, we were both hurt, and we had only been married for that stinking year, and I just took off. So she stepped on board that tour, which was a 36 tractor trailer loads. It was a big theater show. Yeah. And she walked on as the assistant stage manager. And
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So it was Australian based. All the dinosaurs were built in Melbourne, Australia, and most of the crew came from there. Okay. And the assistant stage manager was heading back to Australia for another gig, and it just the timing was perfect. So she stepped on as assistant stage manager. She worked up all the way to company manager, assistant company manager, and then she did that tour with me, and then she came out on Batman with me, and she got to dress all the Batmans. So, and
perfect.
One of them is Sam Heughan, which is on Outlander, which is the sexiest man in Scotland.
That's who my wife's really interested in right now. Yeah, interesting.
So we used to go.
I'm sure she really struggled through that part of her career.
Oh, it was rough for her, very rough. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Hilarious.
How did you guys actually meet? I know we're kind of going a little out of order, but what was the meeting there?
We met a guy at a men's retreat, and kind of that was over the weekend. Wednesday, we hooked back up just to do a little recap with the dudes, and this guy's name was Jeremy Bakel, and he was talking to my dad when I got there, and he's like, I didn't hardly know this guy, and he's like, we need to find Casey a wife. And like 3 minutes later, he's like, I got the perfect girl.
Oh wow.
And he's like, come out with us Friday. And I said, no. And of course. He called me 3 other times, and I said, no. And then the 5th time, I think, I was like, okay, cool. Okay, you're persistent. I'll go out. We'll have a good night, blah, blah. I had no idea about this girl. I didn't even know her name.
Okay, yeah.
And then Friday rolled around, and she calls me. And she's like, Casey, this is Mundy. Are you coming out tonight? And I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah. Sure. I'm coming. And so I picked her up at her condo that night. We had a blind date with that other couple, double date. I went to the Olive Branch, which is now Red Gravy downtown.
Okay.
And had a good night. Both of us walked away with like, a lot in common. Know a lot of the same people, but we're like, we'll probably be like mountain bike buddies or hiking buddies.
Yeah.
And then, it's kind of a crazy story, but over the weekend, her ski rack fell off of her car going to Copper Mountain, and her car got kind of jacked up.
Oh, gosh.
I'm a mechanic.
Yeah.
She calls me and she's like, hey, can you look at my car? Look down her car after work, and she was like, well, I was pulling out of her driveway, and she's like, hey, do you want to go get dinner? And so we went to the Loop in Manitou.
Okay.
And we were there for 4 hours, like just talking about stuff that we shouldn't have been talking about, just like life goals and blah, blah, blah. And then the next
Because it's not really a date. It's just sort of hanging out.
It was just hanging out, yeah. And then the next week she went to a wedding. She's from Oklahoma. She went to a wedding. One of her friends got married in Oklahoma. She drove back through this nasty blizzard. And I bought my first house down in Pueblo West. So she stopped by my house, chilled out for a little bit, and I followed her back to the Springs. Went to a restaurant, stayed there for 4 or 5 hours, just talking.
Yeah.
Well, this is 2.5 weeks. Her parents drive up from Texas to meet me.
Wow.
So everything was like moving like super fast and everything. I proposed at 3 weeks, and
Sounds like it was moving at the pace you wanted it to, though, too.
Yeah,
you're good with it.
Yeah. And so I proposed in 3 weeks, and then we got married at 6 months from me.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
at March 4th, got married September 4th, 2005.
Okay. How old were you at that?
I was 25.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I was married at 24. Didn't have the same sort of experience you had. Mine was much more almost, I wouldn't say matched. We were matched through our parents, but it felt a little bit like we were doing a lot of things based on our parents' desires for, timetable and who we'd have in the wedding, all that kind of stuff. And we often talk about like redoing the wedding altogether because we felt like it really wasn't ours to begin with. But I always thought that was because of my age. But you're at 25, you're making some decisions that, for yourself. That's cool.
Yeah.
So she went on tour with you, and then you were on. Let's go back to sort of like now you're coming back to Black Forest. You're doing some stuff with some brewing, distilling, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so got off the road. I was working for Stageco. Yeah, and then we kind of fired Axe and the Oak up. And it was, it was a hobby that we were like, let's just try something. We had no idea what we were doing at all.
In distilling or in running a business or all of the above?
Kind of all of the above. Yeah. Because I was, my goal and before the whiskey thing was getting off the road and starting a fabrication shop and building cars and motorcycles and custom furniture and all that stuff. And I had everything all set up and situated. All the tooling and got my LLC and blah, blah. So, we decided to push forward with the whiskey. And before you submit your application, you have to have your brick and mortar. You have to have all of your equipment. So it was a gigantic risk for us. Yeah. We had, we didn't have a huge amount of money into it, but for us, we had a lot of money in it.
Yeah. This isn't a work out of your house kind of job. Yeah.
And we had to we sat on that for 9 months. We had to pay on that for 9 months. We couldn't touch the equipment. And we finally got our approval, man. And we just kind of got rocking and rolling. And we were, I guess we were about 3 months in. No one knew us at all. So for a marketing thing, I entered the Denver International and the North American Bourbon and Whiskey Competition. Yeah. Not expecting a thing, but to be like, hey, we're little Axe in the Oak.
Yeah, you could at least promote that you were in the competition, right? You of course didn't expect to win, but hey, we're competing in this.
Yeah, and we didn't. We took 2 silvers.
Oh, that's awesome.
So and 2 really big competitions, and then since then we've taken stuff in San Francisco International and New York International, and our ride the last 2 years has won gold and Whiskeys of the World. Our bourbons took silver in Whiskeys of the World.
Which those awards, I mean, that's confirmation that you're not just having a buddy saying this is good stuff.
Yeah, it's good, bro.
Yeah, and you're like, it's like your mom or dad saying, "Wow, you're really great at this," and it doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, it means something, but you just know you're not getting that objective view.
Exactly, and like the competitions that you hit. 2 years in a row, and then the second year it's best in class.
Yeah, wow.
And it's it's pretty neat.
What do you attribute that success to? Is it's just dumb luck? I mean, you kind of described a little bit like we didn't know what we were doing. So how do you?
No, we just kind of buckled down and really honed into our craft. And we, I guess it was about 3 years in, we came to a point where we tripled production, quadrupled sales, and we started depleting our barrels. And the system that we were on wasn't keeping up.
Yeah.
And really didn't have the buku bucks that everyone else has going into distillation. So
you didn't have any investors at all. It was just your own money you thrown in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we had to make a hard decision. We never wanted to do any blending. But in order to keep our doors open, we had to. Yeah. And I really felt bad, and I have some really good friends in the distillation industry. Yeah. And it was one of those things where I reached out to a bunch of them and was like, man, it really stinks, but this is what we're going to have to do. And all of them were super supportive. Like, of course, yeah, do it. Yeah. And
had they had to do the same thing?
Some of them had. Yeah. And there's been a few of them that have been able just to crank and hold down the fort with making their own product, and I'm super happy for them. Yeah. Hats off to them. But I was really nervous about all that because I was like, well, we're bringing in a source bourbon, a source dry. How are we going to stay consistent? Yeah. And we've become, I don't know, if we have the schooling or the title to call ourselves master blenders, but we can blend our asses off. And we've become really, really good at it. Yeah. To where if some of these other distilleries ran into the issue that we had, they'd have a lot to learn, because it's not super easy. Yeah, yeah. But we've been able to keep our product consistent, blending our product in with our sourced, and it's honestly been a lot of fun. Oh, for sure. Doing it that way. So yeah, it was just like huge. It's huge weight off of our shoulders. Yeah, breath of fresh air. But it was, at the time, bro, it was nerve-wracking. Oh, for sure. But that's that resiliency of an entrepreneur. If you got to find a way to make that work, got to do it. What I'm curious about though too is you talked about you're all set up to sort of get into that, auto industry, and you had all the equipment and ready to go. And, there's a lot of shit that's talked about over a fire. Like, we should do this. And, of course, as more drinks come, it's like even better ideas you should run after. So what was it about this idea that it seemed viable enough to sort of step away from what you're wanting to do and actually run after it versus just another great idea around a fire? Like, what about it was worth running after? Yeah. Especially since you didn't have a ton of, like, right. You had some dabbling of your own experience, but nothing like, we're selling stuff before. Nothing professional, yeah. I think it was probably, at the time, it was the individuals that were in the mix. Jason and Eric and Scott, and I have another partner, Mike Howledge, and so we just I don't know, man. It was just one of those things where we made it happen, and it was nerve-wracking, and I have to say, when I started this, I had a full-time job with benefits. Okay, yeah. I had a side gig with my furniture custom company. Yeah, it was called Camp Fabrication, and so I had some backups at the time when I started. Some fallbacks for sure. But the whole thing was like it was nerve-wracking for sure, but exciting. Was it also nerve-wracking to kind of go in with some friends? You got some support with these guys who you've known a lot, but was that also a little scary of like, is this going to impede our friendships? Are we going to put those at risk for the sake of this business? Or did you not even think about that or care about that? Or did you know like the relationships were solid enough that they were going to fight through this? Yeah, I was, I didn't want to have a lot of partners. Okay. And it kind of started with Jay and I, and then Eric, and then Scott wanted in, and then, so it just kind of, and I was like, oh man, I don't, honestly, it wasn't something I wanted or we wanted. Yeah. It's just kind of how it happened. Mm-hmm. And man, I've heard some horror stories. Yeah. Yeah. In business and small business. And I am so thankful for the partners that I have, and the way that we've been able to work through different issues. There's never been any crazy blow-ups or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I met with 2 of them yesterday for a big meeting, and then I'm driving down to Texas to pig hunt with my buddy Jason tomorrow.
That's awesome.
We're really still really close friends and doing well, and it's not always the case, but I'm really happy and thankful it's how it's worked out for us.
That's great. Yeah, I've had a couple clients who've been friends and have made me leery of taking on them as clients or friends as clients, which can be different than partnerships. You're serving them and they're paying you for your services, but sometimes you just always, you hear the stories, as you said, and you're hesitant sometimes. Paint a little picture about you kind of had this desire to put a product out there, but it sounds like it was a little bit more driven by just your desire to create it. Did you also, though, see like a need in the industry? Like, what was the landscape at back then? I mean, were you competing against a lot of people? Was there we need this in this space, or where were you at back then? Yeah,
when we first got going, 291 had released. So 291, Michael Myers was the first one here in the Springs. And then Lee Spirits and Axe in the Oak, we kind of came on at the same time. And now there's 11, 12, 13 distilleries just here.
Yeah.
So we saw a need.
Okay.
And when we saw, we were like, man, if we can kind of pull this off, we're going to be right ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Just like as far as the fire department, all the code and everything here, the first 5 distilleries we had a 5-year grace period on coming up to code, and because the fire department, when we first started, they had no idea what to do with us.
Oh yeah.
And Colorado Springs Fire Department's been really great and been working with us. And
that's awesome.
If they had to put in that code, they would have put every distillery out of business, type of thing. So they've really worked well with us. So yeah, it's neat, and I'm grateful for the time we got in, because if we got any later, it would have been a lot more difficult for us.
Yeah. How about buyers, consumers? Where were they at in that space? I mean, there's much more demand for that product nowadays, I feel like, but 10, 15 years ago, that was sort of a niche sort of experience. So what was the marketplace like that for consumers? Were they ready for that? Did they need to be persuaded? Or like, what is this product? Why do you need it? Where were they at?
Yeah, I think when we first got in, I think everyone was ready. They had been on the craft brew thing for several years, and oh, cool, all these whiskey distilleries are coming in. And the good thing about Colorado is they support local like crazy.
Yeah.
And so we thought it was going to be, oh man, we're going to door to door, and we're going to have to. It's going to be really hard to sell, and and first couple liquor stores we walk in, it was just like, heck, you're local, you're from here. What are you talking about? It was just like, take my money type of thing.
That's awesome.
And then selling to them and then getting a reorder. It was like, you called me.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing calling me? This is cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. Just the name too. Can you give me a quick, is there a great story behind the name? Is it sort of like you were sitting next to an axe and you saw an oak? I mean, what were you at? Yeah.
No, we wanted to be, looking at whiskey, and this is one of the conversations around the fire, but we wanted to be kind of geared around the Prohibition era. So all the federal agents had an axe with them to puncture all the distillation equipment and bust up all the barrels. So on our first business cards, we have I have the original photo of a federal agent with an axe over his shoulder walking through the woods in Kentucky looking for a makeshift distillery. So that's what we're, we were looking for spaces out in Callahan because we were looking for cheap real estate for the distillery.
Yeah.
I was in the truck. I was like, guys, what about axe in the cask? And we got back to the house that night, and we had a couple drinks, and it didn't come out as axe in the cask. It came out as something very different. Yeah. So axe in the oak, is what we settled on, and it's worked out good.
That is a good story. I just always found those fascinating about how people get to the name of their Keel. People ask about Keel, how we got there, but It's actually from a Bob Dylan lyric I heard on the way back from a flight from Wyoming, I think. And the picture isn't always the greatest picture. He talks about like he's on his knees looking at a girl through the keyhole. But what I like about it was just that visual of like helping businesses get to the other side of the door, you know, like trying to get to the things they want to do and the things they want to accomplish, and how do we help you get to that? You can see it, but how do you get to the other side of that?
That's cool.
So it comes from that picture. It's not always the best story I want to tell, but at the same time, it has a good visual. Mm-hmm. What, you know, you could talk about like wanting to create an opportunity for people to sit around, share some stories, you know, share life. Are there other things that you're intentional, other than just sort of creating a great product, which is a huge step? Are there other things you're intentional about with your brand to create those opportunities for people, create that experience for people?
Yeah, that was a big of an intention. We wanted people to sit down, have a glass of whiskey, and talk.
Yeah.
That's why you go down to the whiskey house. There's no TV.
Yeah.
There's nothing to sidetrack you except for music. Which, you know, it just helps the vibe. When
it generates conversation sometimes, for sure.
Exactly. But we're all about that, you know, being born and raised here, loving Colorado Springs, loving how far it's come in the last 5 to 10 years, seeing where it's going currently is really exciting. And we really just wanted to create a space and a product that people can sit down and enjoy and chill out with each other and just get to know each other, or keep building on a relationship type of thing, you know. Yeah,
it's interesting from that perspective, because obviously you're a business owner, so you're loving the growth that's happening in this area. As a fairly new person here, I get mixed reviews on that. You get a lot of people who've been here for a long time, and it's getting too busy and the traffic's kind of crazy, which again, it's all relative, because I lived in Chicago and lived in other cities, and the traffic isn't close to that.
No way.
But it's, I mean, even as a native who's seen it in a quieter time, you're loving kind of where it's going, though.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, being an outdoorsman, I love mountain biking, I love hiking, and I love all of what it has to offer here in the Springs. So I could be perfectly content if no one ever moved here ever again.
Yeah.
But, you know, my wife and I, when we got off the road, we were looking at moving to Denver, Fort Collins, just because it was more vibrant. And that's what we were kind of wanting at the time. And we were looking right before we started axing the oak. And I'm really happy we stayed, because there is some really cool things going on here. The youngsters that are graduating from Colorado Springs are staying in Colorado Springs and not moving to Chicago or LA or whatever. So it's just been fun to watch, because I used to race dirt bikes out on like Powers and Mark Shuffle. Like, there was nothing here.
Yeah, for sure.
There's nothing here. And I do have to say, like, it was stagnant for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and it was hard for youngsters out of high school or college to stay.
Yeah, you had to go somewhere else to
get
going.
Fun.
Yeah.
If you weren't into the outdoors, the nightlife, the food, the beverage, it was just it's dismal.
Yeah. And I can relate to that. That's part of the reason we moved to Chicago after college, or after we got married, just to get our careers going. There wasn't much in where we lived in Indiana in certain towns, and you know, to kind of get going on a good start. That's where you had to go to the large cities and get those opportunities. But it's nice when they have. In the industry, the world has changed so much since back then. I mean, again, you can start businesses out of your house and do some stuff like that. You don't have to go work for the brick and mortar, work for the man. So things have changed a lot. Last couple of questions, just thinking about like just family life a little bit. And we've talked a little bit about faith, but you've been married 15 years, I think, right?
September will be.
Yeah, you mentioned that the other day. You've got a 5-year-old, but I know that your wife, you talked a little bit the other day when you and I met of, she owns El Magre, and she's had her hands or started some other businesses over the years.
Yeah.
What's it like? So it definitely seems like that entrepreneurial bug's not going away for either one of you anytime soon. So what's it like in your house having both entrepreneurs, husband and wife, also being parents, though? Like, is that a chaotic experience, or do you try to create some peace and tranquility in there as much as possible, or how does that?
For sure, it's it's been very chaotic at times, because things are really busy and axing the oak, and Money's starting a completely new thing. Having the 5-year-old. So the last 5 years have been pretty wild, but we have a pretty good balance right now. You know, I eat breakfast with him every morning.
Yeah.
I eat dinner with him every night. And, you know, Monday and I are running so fast, and we're running in different directions, but we still make time. Our communication still, I ain't gonna lie, it ain't the best. But we make it work.
Yeah.
And you know, I just love them both dearly, and we have a lot of fun. And man, my son Walker, he's just the coolest kid ever. He's just so much fun.
That's cool.
And I'm really excited for Monday. She's got some good stuff going. She's got a good business partner, and it's doing well up there.
Yeah. Maybe I'm asking more for advice. My wife works out of the house. I have my own business out of the house, and we have a 6-year-old. So he's at school now. He just started kindergarten. But yeah, do you try to sort of create some barriers around your house where that's a sanctuary space, or does everything sort of bleed into itself? I mean, do you have work that kind of gets in there, or do you try to protect certain areas of your space of life?
Yeah, I think how we're geared, Monday's geared to where we'll get off work, we'll have dinner, we'll chill out as a family until 8:30, and the beautiful part is my wife and my son go to bed at the same time.
Nice. Nice.
And I'm a night owl.
Yeah.
So if I have to do anything work related, it's after they've already hit the pillow.
Perfect.
You know? And so I'll be up till 2 a.m, and we'll get up at 7 and have some breakfast. So it's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. When you think back kind of on your life, you talked about a lot of people who've stuck through a lot of different times of life, you know, friends from high school, from junior high. Who were some of the people who you look back and think, you know, those were hugely influential in your life and kind of where you are today?
You know, obviously mom and dad. My bros have been through a lot of crazy situations, you know, good and bad, and I'm so thankful for my bros. Like, they're just good dudes. My stepsister Mikkel, my wife is like, she's just a great sounding board, and like I'll be most of the time I'm doing something stupid, and so she'll you know, talk me down, or I'll be like, you know, what about this, and like she'll just have the perfect answer, you know. So she's great in that sense. And then I do, man, Joe, I have such good friends, such good family. My dad's side was huge, and so I have like 1 million cousins on one side, and then on my mom's side I have one cousin.
Oh, wow.
So it's really wild.
Yeah.
But very, very close friends from elementary, junior high, high school, and then every tour that I've ever done.
Wow.
And it's special.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It really is special. Yeah, Faith, John Morris and Gary Laxon, John Lane. I've had some great people in my life.
Yeah, it's awesome. Have them come into your life and just stay there for a while, which is great.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit the other day about just faith and where it sits in our lives, and I think we both kind of pretty quickly expressed like the tension we feel within the church and the issues I think we've personally had in our own lives from time to time. And I guess, how would you describe where faith sits in your life today? Does it mean a lot? Is it faith
you know, really means a lot for my wife and myself. Cool seeing Walker and church now and everything, but I think in the church it gets very overcomplicated at times. So I'm at the point in my life and my walk that I love God. I love Jesus. But I want to keep things simple. And just love people. I don't want to put on a show. And I want to realize that, man, God's here. God saved me. God did all these things, and it's kind of weird saying I want to leave it at that, but I think Christianity's been spun in a very weird way. People are looking for certain things and wanting to, build their little box.
For sure.
And yeah, man, I just want to. I want to believe.
Yeah.
And I want to help people. Want to love people. And that's kind of it.
And it's really about that simple. I mean, that's the thing. I think that's what we talked about the other day. It was just stripping off a lot of the extracurriculars that we like to throw into that mix, and it can be a lot more simple than we make it. Oh man,
yeah. Well, I don't know why. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. How do you let your faith impact your business? Is it intentional to kind of put those things together and bleed them together, or sort of do you try to separate them in some respects?
Yeah, I don't. I think once you bleed, like a lot of people that I deal with on the daily know that I'm a believer.
Yeah.
But I think if you bleed sometimes, it turns into a forceful feeling. That what's this guy doing? This is just another guy. He's got the fish on his car, or whatever that the case may be. But I don't want to be that. I want to be kind. I want to respect people, and I want to meet people where they are, because through my lifetime, through my walk, I've been religion or Christianity, or it's been forced upon me. I never want that. Yeah, I definitely want to. Just meet people where they are. People are in some, this life that we live is hard, and so I just if I'm able to just chill out with some people, cool.
Yeah. I do think it's always hard to define sometimes. I've worked at some organizations who led with that Jesus fish, and it got to be so forced, and it got to be a little unreal, and it is trying hard. I'm kind of the same tension you have of, I don't want to deny it and not put it into the business, but I also don't want it to necessarily be stamped all over the place and come across as the wrong motive and the wrong intentions behind it.
Yeah, I wasn't a good dude.
Yeah,
and thankfully I found Jesus. But I work where I have a lot of employees now that don't know Jesus. We work every day with people in every sector, and it's just like, no. Let's just let's be nice. One, and hey, if a door opens there, cool. But there's so many people in such different seasons. It's really hard to go there.
Yeah, and this whole area is interesting. My wife and I've really enjoyed that because, it's open to those conversations. I guess it probably depends on your perspective. For us, it seems to be a good balance. It's not an oppressive area. Other people might have a different story based on their own background, their own stories, but we've found a good mix of people who are open to that conversation, and also those who are fine with staying away from that conversation too, and but also aren't ready to cut you off just because you brought it up.
Yeah,
it's good. What is it about this town? I mean, just as we kind of close this up, you've been here your whole life. Like, what is it about this town that makes it so special to you?
A lot of people would say it's not very diverse, but I think it's very diverse with all the people flowing in and out of Colorado Springs with military. I think it's with all of the religious base, Christianity base. It's huge here.
Yeah.
And then just having all it's pretty wild thinking about, but I just like that aspect of how diverse it is, because people are like, oh, well, you have 1 million military bases there, and you have 1 million Christian organizations there, but you have this and this and this and that going on as well, and you have all this outdoor stuff going on, and it's beautiful. So yeah, it's funny, where social media is going these days, and just where all these chats spike up, and man, people are all over, and they put themselves in this little pocket. They're cursing that that, that sector and this person's cursing that sector. It's funny.
Yeah.
So I just kind of hang back.
Yeah.
But I love it.
And it seems like you're very intentional about kind of giving back to this community. Why is that important to you? Just whether it's just your own personal involvement as a business. I mean,
no, yeah, I just I want to see Colorado Springs succeed. That's it. I want Colorado to succeed because I have awesome friends and family here, and I have an awesome family here, and I plan on staying here for the rest of my life. Yeah. Honestly, we'll see. My wife, she's one of those gals that wants to pick up and move to Fort Collins, and then this, so we'll see how it goes. But I could very easily, never travel again. Yeah. And stay here in Colorado and be completely content. Good day,
yeah. What is next for you, for the business? Anything new on the horizon you want to share?
Let's see here. So we have, we'll have a lot of releases in 2020. It's going to be a great year. We're doing a big barrel project, so we're going to have a port finished and a cognac finished and a Lafroig Scotch finished and a tequila finished and a ruby port. I said that already. So a Zin Syrah. And then we're working on a couple gins. We're working on butterscotch liqueur. Wow. Man, just all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah. My family down at the whiskey, all the whole crew that works for us, they're family, and I love working with them, and I love what they're doing down there. They're very, very, very talented. Just really incredible mixologists. Yeah. So it's fun. Like they're working on this like peanut. It's a peanut liqueur. Wow. It is literally like a salted, and it is the best thing I've had.
Sounds amazing. Yeah,
it's really good. So we're just always concocting different things and trying to have as much fun as we can. We're going to try to, in 2020 or 2021, we're going to move the distillery into a bigger location. Okay. We're about to purchase a bigger distillation system that would triple our current production. Yeah. So we have a lot of stuff happening in the next year or two. Yeah. And it should be just a wonderful year. And then personally, my wife and I just bought a little property and a little cabin in Westcliff, Colorado that we're going to rebuild. And I'm building. I'm still a gearhead. Yeah. And, so I'm building a car for Bonneville 2020.
2020. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So August.
You're gonna be racing in that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Cool, man. Thanks so much for the time today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'll be over at your place pretty soon, I'm sure, again.
All right.
Just over there not too long ago, but I'll have to get back. So
good deal. Thanks,
good to see you, man. Thanks. You've been listening to Metaphorically Speaking. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate us on iTunes and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. For more information and to check out our full library of entrepreneurial interviews, visit keyholemarketing.us. Also, feel free to send us an email anytime at hi@keyholemarketing.us. Thank you for listening.